California's mental health for all efforts, we are aiming to make sure every Californian, especially people who have the hardest time getting help, can get high quality mental health and substance use treatment when and where they need it. The plan, as you just heard, is supported and being implemented here by major investments, new policies, and close partnerships with local governments, health plans, care providers, people with lived experience, tribal nations, and community organizations. The state is adding more treatment services and housing, growing and diversifying the workforce that is supporting every individual and making care more culturally and linguistically responsive. Under Governor Newsom's leadership, through billion-dollar investments like the voter-approved Proposition 1 and initiatives like CalAIM focused on the social determinants of health, Care Court, California has developed a nation-leading continuum of care to serve individuals at every stage of life, including those who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness. This Friendship House was recently awarded $31.4 million from Proposition 1, Behavioral Health Continuum Infrastructure Program, to help build a Village San Francisco Wellness Center to house 60 residential substance use disorder beds, 107 mental health outpatient spaces, and 100 wellness spaces. These are spaces and places to heal. This is part of a larger effort where last year alone, the California Department of Health Care Services awarded over $3 billion in funds from Proposition 1 to build 4,236 residential beds and 18,875 treatment spaces. We are on track and actually surpassing our goal of where we thought we would be at this time, and we're looking forward to awarding more funds, the remaining $1.1 billion later this year. I'm grateful to our state, our local partners, to everyone advancing mental health for all, and to Governor Newsom for his leadership. Together we are transforming communities. And it is now my pleasure to introduce my partner and a phenomenal leader for the state of California, Secretary Tamika Moss.
Thank you, Secretary Johnson. Good morning. It feels good to gather for good news, doesn't it? Well, today is a good day. We are announcing the awards of more than $420 million to our HAP program awardees who are making a difference in their local communities every day. You heard from the mayor the incredible work that San Francisco is doing to address housing and homelessness in our communities. We are seeing that work happen all across the state. It's programs like HAP that allow local jurisdictions to apply culturally responsive programs and services and housing for those that need it the most. We are often asked, is California on the right track? Do we know what solutions work to address our housing and homelessness crisis? Well, folks, the answer is yes. It is evidenced by the work of this program. It is evidenced by what is happening here at Friendship House, and it is exactly what leadership looks like. This governor, this legislators investing in programs like HAP that allow communities to not only look at investments, but also to track outcomes, to use data and evidence to ensure that every single dollar that is being spent on solutions that work. The Housing and Community Development Department hosts dashboards that track every HAP grantee's progress toward their regional goals. These are transparent accountability metrics that allows communities to understand how these resources are being used and making sure that we are held accountable for our collective goals. That is what leadership looks like. Despite the federal headwinds that we are facing, California shows up. It is this governor and this legislature that continues to invest in solutions that work. We also have our tribal HAP program that is open and receiving applications. These resources allow our federally recognized tribes to invest in addressing housing and homelessness in their own communities. It takes a village, y'all, to be able to have the kind of impact that California deserves. And guess what? It's working. We are seeing results, and we cannot take our foot off the gas if we are going to ensure that every single Californian has a safe and affordable place to call home. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our governor of the great state of California, Gavin Newsom.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you for the privilege of being back here. I was looking over as you were speaking and looked back, I thought I saw Mayor Lurie with Helen, but I realized that was me 20 years ago before the gray hair and you know, you'll be there soon, Mr. Mayor. But it's great to be back here. And I say back here because the journey with Helen goes back to the time I was a county board of supervisors when I was asked by then Mayor Willie Brown if I'd be willing to go on a substance abuse treatment trip with a few leaders from San Francisco to talk about the issues around treatment on demand, talk about methadone maintenance, talk about some novel strategies that San Francisco was trying to lead. And so we found ourselves as strangers in North Carolina and then came back as friends. And so it's wonderful to be here, the Friendship House, decades later, and to see the progress, not just the promotion, but the progress and the life-changing work that you highlighted so effectively, including reflecting your own journey. That is the vision of Helen's and the vision of all of those remarkable leaders that are here supporting this remarkable community. We recognize, though, we have a lot more work to do. And in that spirit, we're back to highlight some progress, to promote our next steps. You heard a number of speakers highlight some of that progress. You've heard the remarkable progress here in San Francisco in particular, across the spectrum of issues. Yesterday, the mayor laid out in his State of the City a lot of that progress in every key category. Extraordinary progress is being made in San Francisco, and it's not just the data that's presented, it's the sense of place. People are feeling it again. They're experiencing it again, and that's the most difficult, perhaps, thing to move, and that's perception. And no one has done that more effectively than Mary Lurie. So I just want to congratulate you on that remarkable leadership in this last year, and just keep it up on behalf of all of us throughout the state of California. But our state of mind is now anchored on promoting even more progress. What we highlighted just a few days ago was something we haven't been able to highlight in a decade and a half in California. In fact, you look back even decades prior, we had not seen a reduction in unsheltered homeless. The issue on homelessness is focused on unsheltered. We could talk about people that are sheltered, people that are housed. That's actually something to promote. But unsheltered homelessness is something to address. And we saw a 9%, almost 10% decline in unsheltered homelessness throughout the state of California with our 30 COCs that announced their progress. So we're seeing these investments paying off. It's been a flywheel. I get people's frustration. We all intimately understand that frustration, but we are seeing real progress. And we are investing in what we know works. And one of the areas of investment that we will continue to support is our HAP program, which in 2019 was novel. $500 million was invested in that space. With today's announcement, an additional $419 million for our HAP 6 distribution. We total now close to $4.5 billion. The state of California has provided cities and counties and COCs in discretionary funds to support their local efforts. Again, the state had no vision. The state had no plan. The state was not involved in the issue of housing, mental health, and homelessness. Just 7 years ago, we recognized our responsibility, and we recognize the imperative of partnerships, and we continue to make those investments. By the way, there's an additional $340 million we'll be distributing in the next few months as well under the HAP 6 program. But one of the things we also are promoting is accountability. And the mayor and I have talked a lot about this, and he hasn't been shy about not only supporting that, but advocating for more accountability. He highlighted encampments. One of the critical components of the HAP 6 distribution is a requirement to address the issue of encampments, a requirement that is new in the HAP distribution. There is no distribution in funds unless there's strategies and plans to address the issue of encampments on the streets and sidewalks of our cities all across this state. There's also accountability and requirement that you be in compliance with the housing element in your respective cities. And I understand the friction of that intimately. My former role as a county supervisor, even more in some respects than as mayor at the time. But we got to be serious about the supply-demand imbalance in the states. The original sin our inability to get out of our own way and produce enough housing. And that's foundational and fundamental. It's directly connected to the crisis of homelessness in the state. That is now a requirement for distribution of funds. It's also a requirement that there's accountability on the utilization of the prior funds and that you're actually investing those funds. You're not just hoarding those funds, which has been the case in some cities and counties that have sat on tens of millions of dollars for years and years and years, and yet sat there, complained about the situation, and demanded even more money. In this new round, we're demanding more accountability and transparency in that space. We also, as was highlighted, are investing now in the next frontier. In 1959, we had 37,000 beds for our behavioral health system in the state of California. 37,000 beds. In 2023, we were down to 5,500. 37,000 in 1959, 5,500 in 2023, with a population twice as large in 2023 as the population in the 1960s. Dumb as we want to be. It was a bipartisan endeavor to move away from state hospitals, a bipartisan endeavor that was designed to then begin to invest in community alternatives, but those investments never took shape. So we are now shape-shifting with the overwhelming opportunity that Proposition 1 presents. It was 18 months ago that that passed, the fastest distribution of bond funds in California history. As was stated, up to 70% now of those dollars locked in, lined up for projects just like this. That's the why we are back here. $31.4 million will go from Proposition 1 to support the project you see behind me. It's about rehabbing, acquiring, and building back that system. 4,200, you heard, 4,236 locked and unlocked beds. That money has now been distributed. Those dollars are now lined up with SECRA reforms that were part of what the voters approved. We're not doing business as usual. So we're very proud of that $6.38 billion bond. We're very proud of the $31.4 million that is supporting this project. We're very proud of those 4,236 units that are now in the queue and getting lined up. And we're very proud of the progress cities like San Francisco, cities like LA and San Diego, other beneficiaries of HAP 6 distribution of funds are making in this space. And so I thank all of you for allowing me back in this room to be here and share this space with all of you to address the most vexing, challenging, and most meaningful issue of our time. And I'll close on that because you began on that, the human side of this. And I just want to acknowledge everyone's journey is unique. Everyone's expression is unique. And that's what makes this so challenging. One size does not fit all. And so the issues for the Native communities are unique and distinctive, and it's incredibly important, as Christina Snyder and others remind me all of the time, that our strategies reflect the diversity within our state, the unique needs and characteristics, but also, as defined, final words, in that frame community. People should not be struggling alone, nor can they necessarily recover alone. And so it takes, you said it, a village. But it also takes people willing to be members of that community. And so for all of the caregivers and counselors and support staff also supported with $2.4 billion in Proposition 1, I just want to thank you for your example and your inspiration as well. With that, I have two things to say. Number one, the mayor has to be mayor, so he has to go. Number two, we're here to answer all the questions you may have had for him and any questions you may have for me as well.
Thank you, sir. It's good to see you.
Governor, the progress you're touting today is a bit of an outlier. Those numbers have risen every other year of the governorship. What is driving that steady increase, and why is it taking so long to see progress?
I'm tremendously proud of the progress we're making. Before I got here, between 2015 and 2019, we saw almost 52% increase in unsheltered homelessness. We've been real progress in the last few years. It was 0.45% last year increase. And I know that you guys highlighted that in a lot of the Headlines reflected the fact that the nation had an 18.13% increase in homelessness last year. California 7%, but 0.45% on unsheltered, which was lower than 44 states. And I thought that was important last year because it marked a moment of progress, and we said more is coming. And this year, we're seeing that progress continue. So it's a flywheel. Decades and decades of neglect coming from the state level. That's not been the case the last number of years. We can mark that progress in the last few years. In particular, we can also mark the challenges that we faced and this nation faced during COVID, during those peak moments in 2021, 22, where we saw a lot of challenges, particularly as it relates to what was happening on the streets and sidewalks all across the United States, including here in California. And so we were able to break down the barriers, be it issues around Grant Pass, issues around conservatorship reforms, issues around new strategies like Care Court, aligning our strategies around CalIM and the other Medicaid reforms that we've advanced in this state, the mobile efforts we've had for reimbursement, all these areas. Home key, room key, things we've highlighted. And we're finally seeing the stacking of all those things, not one particular issue or initiative, but all of them starting to stack together, producing real progress.
So with that 9%
Oh, sorry.
Governor, how is the accountability measured by the state? What specific metrics? Are we talking point-in-time counts, exits to housing, retention? How is the state going to make sure that it's
Yeah, it's the annual HUD process that the COCs, there's 44, 30 that just provided their information, the 14 that work on a different schedule. And so it's the pick count. It's the well-established pick count, which, by the way, is the most imperfect count you can get. Let me establish that as well. No one's naive about that. It's how many volunteers you have, it's what the weather is like. It's, there's been a lot of, so it's an imperfect process, and I'm not naive about that. But nor am I naive about the progress that you're seeing in cities like San Francisco. It's real, and that's reflected in the numbers. Not in every part of the state, but in most parts of California. So we just want to keep that going. The issue about behavioral health is the issue, though, that needs to be addressed, and that's what we're doing, flooding the zone with a $6.38 billion. And also doing something that's incredibly important. You'll be writing and talking a lot more about this. In July of this year, we're reforming our Behavioral Health Services Act, and we're redirecting about $1 billion a year, annual appropriation, minimum commitment to cities and counties to house folks under the Behavioral Health Services Act, particularly people that are duly diagnosed with drug or alcohol addictions, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and the like. So the eligibility requirements have changed. The shift of funding to prioritize homelessness and housing and those that are most chronic and in need will be changed in July. And the big part of it, first time in state's history, I can't make up for 50 years, but we were able to get progress and support despite opposition through the voters by requiring a single plan in every county in California. So rather than 88 plans in LA County, one single plan to integrate all of these funding sources that has an auditing component and is transparent. And finally, if you want to see the details, go to accountability.ca.gov. That should be right up here on this thing, accountability.ca.gov, and I encourage you to do so because it will answer your question with specificity in every county in California. You'll see where they are in conservatorship reform, where they are in Care Court, where they are in terms of the pick count, where they are in terms of the housing compliance and homelessness, where they are on the RENA goals. I can go on, but it's the first site the state has ever put forth to lay out accountability on state dollars.
Just to get some clarity on the 9% figures that you've been sharing, the here in the state of the state and then here. It's my understanding San Francisco is actually not included in that. I'm not saying that housing or homelessness isn't down.
I wish it was. It'd be lower.
Well, but so my question is, what does that 9% figure represent? Does it include Sacramento, where homelessness is? I feel at least people feel like it's still very much a problem. San Diego, Los Angeles. Like, what is that 9% figure?
Well, I was answering her question and specifically referenced where it was coming from, the 30 COCs that provide data under the annual pick count to housing and urban development. So that's precisely. Well, the COCs incorporate the cities and counties, so they are the actual collecting body that provides that information to HUD. Yeah.
Do you have figures yet on overall or sheltered homes?
That's we're waiting, this is interesting as well. Usually the federal government comes out with these numbers in December. For whatever reason, they've delayed these numbers. Trust but verify. We'll be stress testing what they put out, and we've stress tested the 30 COCs that have provided these numbers in a very transparent way and an accountable way. And I imagine the overall numbers would likely go up if we're successful, because more people by definition that are housed, that means less people are unsheltered. And so it's one of those numerics, depends on your point of view, what you want to promote. You want a point of view of pessimism, or point of view of optimism. For me, the unsheltered is the very optimistic numeric, and it's the one we focus our attention on.
Governor, a couple questions on your budget proposal, especially when it comes to immigrant benefits. One is that there's basically out of your proposal, there's going to be a number of differences among immigrants and what coverage levels they may have. Those who are legal, who are refugees, asylees, will be losing their full scope Medi-Cal, while others who may not have documentation and signed up before December 31st will retain their full scope. How do you justify that kind of difference, and is there anything that can be done? There's a lot of advocates who say you're creating kind of a two-tier system, three-tier system when it comes to Medi-Cal. And then the second question being, your budget, according to your finance director, assumes that the state will be applying work requirements to undocumented Medi-Cal recipients, even though that's not required in the federal legislation. Can you explain that?
So multiple things are happening at the same time, which you know well. You have H.R. 1, the big beautiful bill, the requirements that are set forth in that process that have a lot of criteria and considerations that need to be put in place, including work requirements. I know you had a separate conversation on that, across the spectrum of supports. State of California has advanced a number of programmatic expansions that no other state in the nation has expanded. We put some brakes on that last year. On that expansion as it relates to capping the enrollment because we needed to do so in order to maintain our fiscal prudence, to balance the budget, which we're statutorily required to do, which is the budget we put forth just a few weeks ago, or a week or so ago, to the legislature. In May, and I've made this point the last 2 years, and I'll reinforce it, the budget means little at this moment, means very little. I'm an expert on this. The volatility that we're experiencing with the federal government, the cuts, the lawsuits, the uncertainty is unprecedented in California's history. We anticipate about $1.1 billion in cuts to Medi-Cal under H.R. 1 in this fiscal year in the budget that I'm promoting, about $300 million as it relates to SNAP benefits, CalFresh benefits, about $1.4 billion. But there's also a lot of other conditions that need to be considered, particularly as it relates to our litigation posture. You may have seen on mental health dollars, the president tried to suspend all behavioral health funding to the states. He then backed off. That was just this week, just highlighting the uncertainty. Did the same thing in blue states just for child care. The uncertainty is unprecedented. May is the real budget process. And we made that clear just a few days ago. That said, we've been benefited by $42.3 billion of additional revenue that we did not project last year. Another $2.9 billion that was not part of the $42.3 billion that was in the December revenue forecast, which will be adding, be part of what May represents. We'll see what happens in January, February, March, April. And then we'll put out a budget that reflects the concerns that you've highlighted, that have been expressed, and we'll see what we're able to achieve. But no state in America is doing more for our diverse communities in the state of California, period, full stop. No one comes close. No administration has done more to expand full coverage under Medicaid than this administration for our diverse communities, documented and undocumented. And I've been criticized. There's networks that have built careers, people that have built careers out of criticizing my advocacy for that support. And if you think I overstate, just rerun the tape just from this morning. I think the President of the United States himself was on a friendly show highlighting some of that advocacy. So we'll work through this as we always do, and we'll try to do our best to balance our values and priorities, but also balance the budget. There are three things, and I'll close on this topic of budget. It's not just Medicaid. Very proud of the work we've done in home support services. It's a big cost driver. DDS, big cost driver. Very proud of the work we've done in that space. Those are three areas where, we have had real and honest conversations with the legislature, and those conversations continue to be advanced as it relates to structural issues that we'll have to address and will need to be reflected in the May revise.
And the work requirements, is that a cost issue?
Work requirements, we'll work through that process with the legislature and finance.
Thank you for taking the time. I apologize for off-topic questions. You did mention the president of the United
A lot of these were off topic, nothing to apologize for.
Let me quickly ask you about your Ben Shapiro podcast yesterday, the 1 hour, 9 minute mark.
I haven't seen it, but I was part of it. Thanks.
As we approach the 1 year mark of
Thanks.
the president becoming the 47th president, what do you
Don't I know some of you have accused me of drinking out of plastic bottles as an offensive act, but this was just offered to me, so forgive me, Father. I've sinned. Anyway, that's for my friends at the, whatever, you know who you are. Couldn't you? Yeah.
You asked him what grade would he give the president 1 year? So let me ask you, as we approach Tuesday, January 20th, what grade would you give the president? Second question is from Kron.
Oh, what grade? AAA plus? Was that what Trump said about his performance? Yeah.
What grade would you
Oh,
give
thanks.
it?
Yeah.
And then from Kron.
I'm a tougher grader.
Kron for San Francisco was on a ride along with the California Highway Patrol. The agency is now enforcing English language proficiency for truck drivers. Mr. Governor, what is your reaction?
On that issue, there's a lot of back and forth between the administration, Secretary Duffy's office, my office, on the new rules and regulations that were advanced by the Trump administration recently in that space. We've been trying to work through some of those differences. It's on a myriad of issues, not just that issue as it relates to the ride-along and some of those new enforcement requirements that have been advanced and established by the federal government. As it relates to grading the president, I just used his own words. He said he'd make us wealthier and healthier, and we're poorer and sicker, period. You saw the new manufacturing numbers that just came out. I mean, that was one of his top priorities. It was one of his big promises. He's lost manufacturing jobs. I mean, this economy, the job creation's the lowest since the recession, 2003. It's a wrecking ball presidency. It's been a disaster, and it continues to unfold in extraordinary ways. An abject failure. F. And I don't think there's any objective way to suggest otherwise unless you're on the payroll. It's just a remarkable series of mistakes. You saw what just happened with Prime Minister Carney's visit to China with President Xi. He got an exemption to now start to flood the Canadian market, not with American manufactured cars, but Chinese manufactured cars, by lowering the tariff, was 100% down to 9%. Turning his back on American manufacturing because Donald Trump didn't just flip off a worker at Ford, he gave a middle finger to the entire American automobile manufacturing sector. And China continues to flood the zone. I said it during the State of the State, and I refer back to my comments in detail what I mean by that. This is an extraordinary wrecking ball presidency. He is flailing in every category on a weekly basis. On a weekly basis, the courts, even those that he appointed, are rejecting this administration and its policies. So I cannot impress upon you more. I may be generous with that grade of F.
Governor, when was the last time you spoke with him?
It was that night before he federalized 4,000 National Guard, sent 700 active duty Marines, not overseas, but to the second largest city in the United States. And in the ensuing months, We've seen BORTAC teams, people dressed up, tactical gear, Apache helicopters, descending streets all across America, masked men, without providing identification, and we're in court on that. I was proud to sign the first anti-masking bill in this country. He is trying to stoke a civil war in this country. It is a disgrace what he's doing in Minneapolis. It is a disgrace what he's doing all across the United States of America, terrorizing communities. It is a disgrace what his Department of Homeland Security is putting out. I mean, these ads evoking the worst, the 1930s, very intentionally stoking tensions, white supremacy being promoted actively by this administration, the corruption and graft, the likes of which we've never seen in modern history, modern world history. Modern world history. And I can give you chapter and verse on that. None of this is normal, and it cannot be normalized. So we take it very seriously. Our 53 lawsuits and counting, overwhelming success in terms of our litigation posture, very aggressive in calling this out, drawing lines literally, not just figuratively. Once again, another example of overreach by the Trump administration, suing us and suing the people of California for Prop 50, only to once again be rejected in that 2-1 decision that came out this week. There's not enough time, you don't have enough tape for me to walk through just what he's done in the last week, let alone the last month and last year. So, no, an F.
Contingency plan for the state if and when we see protests like we did back in June?
Of course. We game all that out. I'm working, and I'll answer that, and it's a good segue. We have and you've seen some podcasts with other governors where we've publicly been able to engage, comparing notes. Privately, we do that very consistently. Governor Walz and I back and forth last few days. The mayor, Minneapolis as well, at all levels. I mean, this is code red in this country. It's not flashing yellows. It's code red in the United States of America. It's the 250th anniversary of our founding fathers this year. We're going to be celebrating in July. Best of the Roman Republic, Greek democracy, co-equal branches of government, the rule of law, not the rule of Don. And so I hope it's dawning on every single damn person, Republicans and Democrats, what we are up against. We will lose our republic unless we don't speak out. And so I just applaud people that are peacefully protesting. I applaud people of courage and conviction. Applaud these governors and mayors for standing firm, advocates for doing the same peacefully, using the rule of law, due process, the courts. I plead with the American people to wake up to what's going on. We have that chance. Take back the House of Representatives and take back the Senate if we do our job. Popular sovereignty. If we do our job. And so I'm going to try to do my part. I've got a year left and continue to do my part as a private citizen. And I hope we all do as well. Forgive me.
Would you consider deploying the National Guard to protect citizens against ICE officers?
Well, we've always, let me step back. From the first week I was in office, I deployed the National Guard, 294 National Guard to the border. I had one of the largest deployments in California history during 2 incidents that occurred, 2 issues that precipitated that distribution, or rather deployment of the National Guard. That was during some of the unrest that we were experiencing, and sort of peak COVID and the unrest in the streets in Southern California, and recently over 3,000 to help with fire recovery in Southern California. We have rattlesnake teams that I've deployed that are doing prevention work, fire prevention work throughout the state. We have task forces. We have National Guard representatives working on counter-narcotics here in San Francisco and throughout the region in the Bay Area, JAGs, helping support the DA's office and others. So the question is, do I support deploying the National Guard when and if necessary, depending on criteria and conditions? When and if necessary, depending on criteria and conditions. So I won't speculate beyond that. what that would look like, but only as necessary.
Governor, unsheltered homelessness, Governor. We obviously are hearing the big commitment coming from the state. You're lowering the commitment that comes from the city. Do you expect any federal dollars to come to help these?
Come on. I mean, the president moved forward. They said the private thing out loud with their cuts to behavioral health. And I just want to remind you, every time there's a mass shooting, what is the one thing they fault back on? It's not the gun, it's mental health. You know where their priorities are. It was reflected. They were just humiliated, and there was such backlash that they had to stand down on that promotion of those significant behavioral health cuts. He is trying to dismantle many different federal agencies. We've seen what he's done to the Department of Education. You see what he's doing in real time to FEMA. And he's doing the same to HUD as we know it. So no, I don't expect they will do anything but use this issue as a cudgel to advance their political agenda, but not an open hand, always a closed fist. And I'm sorry.
Are you aware of your statements that you're trying to head off the proposed wealth tax? What would a compromise look like to you that you might?
I don't know what there is to compromise. It's a badly drafted effort. It's already had an outsized impact on this state. It does not support our public educators, does not support our teachers and counselors, our librarians. It doesn't support our first responders and firefighters. It doesn't support the general fund and parks. And forgive me on that. I also want to highlight, and I'll get back to your question, MLK Day is coming up. Donald Trump decided to make MLK Day Donald Trump Day. And you're not now able to go into federal parks for free. MLK Day now been shifted to Trump Day. Again, what more evidence do we need on what the hell is going on in the United States of America? MLK Day in California, we are announcing today we're making 200 parks in California free on MLK Day. We're also celebrating 100th anniversary of Black History Month in February. And we're very proud that we were able to fundraise privately to offset the costs of the general fund for free access to 200 parks across the state. Just wanted to highlight that. That is not supported in the current proposal that's out on the streets. So we'll see where it all lands. I've been pretty clear at a state level. This is not something that will allow us to be competitive. The LAO just spelled it out, detailed. It's going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars a year in reduced revenue to the state, which put enormous pressure on those same programs that we highlighted earlier. It may have its populist appeal as a headline. I deeply understand that. And I get the politics of it intimately. I've been on the receiving end of that. But read the initiative, understand what it does at a state level, and also reflect on the overwhelming opposition, including from many folks in labor. I don't speak for labor, but they have spoken to me, leaders of many unions, in their opposition of this idea that is just beginning to get a few signatures.
Funded in the budget or by the state legislature, you know, we see a lot of these ballots proposed and then
No, I mean, there's no way. Where's the money? Where's the money going to come from? Come on. No, it doesn't exist.
Any other revenue generating proposals to prevent millions of people from falling?
Yeah, continue to grow the economy. $42.3 billion of new revenue that just flew in to the general. No, I want to repeat that. $42.3 billion of revenue that we didn't expect last year. I mean, the revenue generators are our small businesses and entrepreneurs and innovators that are out there, you know, taking risks and making a go at things. And so I'm very proud of that. I want to keep that moving. And you saw the December numbers were even better. I mean, that number is even higher. And so I hope that momentum continues January, February, March. And I just think that's the approach we need to be taking is sort of invest in our economic engines. It's reflected in our R&D tax credits, reflected in my budget for higher education, where we're substantially increasing our investments as the federal government's decreasing their investments into higher education. We're increasing them, which is part of our formula for success. And so that conveyor belt for talent is ways where we can generate the conditions where we can continue to thrive, grow our budgets, grow our revenue, grow our economy.
Governor, you sort of state cannot back.
Can you talk about what he's doing to oppose the billionaire tax proposal?
I mean,
You're raising money.
I'm not, no, look, I have a big agenda this next year, and I've just said what I think, and I've been consistent for years and years on this. At a state level, this is what I fear, that it will put us in a very uncompetitive position. And I think there's some evidence to bear fruit to that. And this particular initiative is just really badly drafted in the context of supporting all those other causes that I hold dear, that I've been advocating for, that I've been supporting and promoting, expanded child care and preschool for all, and the work I'm doing, high-dose tutoring and community schools. Those are not included in this. And I just think that's substance abuse treatment is not. Housing is not. And so those things matter. And so on every level, so I've just expressed that. I can't solve for everything. I just raised $118 million on Prop 50. We laid out some of our agenda and the state of the state. And I have an OKR process that no one wants to hear more about. They're smiling because it drives my agencies and department heads crazy. Those are objectives and key results. It's what we measure every month, and it literally, no more exciting meetings than the ones we have together going through OKR. So we have a big agenda, and I just have a strong opinion on this. I'll leave it there.
That the state absolutely cannot backfill the kinds of cuts that we're anticipating from HR 1 from the federal government.
No, I don't know many states that can. Yeah.
Right. So is there any kind of revenue generator, any kind of tax fee or other revenue generator
There's,
that would help?
We're gonna be creative. We're gonna continue to look for ways to plug gaps. We saw some of the work we did in Planned Parenthood as an example. There's strategies. There's opportunities. There's reforms. There's reforms that are underway. There's new strategies that we're considering, consolidations and efficiencies and opportunities that are reflected. There's also a need and desire to continue to advocate for the kind of reforms that can take place today if Congress would just move. Let me give you a specific example of that. They can extend the subsidies under Obamacare, which would directly impact the state of California. More than any other state, we've been impacted by 3.4 million folks. So that's an example. And so getting Congress to do their job, getting the House of Representatives to, do their job. By the way, they're doing it on NSF funding, NIH funding. They're doing it in some other areas where they're rejecting some of these budget cuts from Trump. They're finally waking up. I think they're just trying to, it's out of desperation because they know they're likely to lose their job if they don't. So those are all other areas and avenues and opportunities. It shouldn't just be an automatic default to just start, I don't know. I said enough.
Governor, you vetoed a bill that Mayor Lurie supported that would allow
I vetoed 100 bills,
cities
yeah.
to spend more state funding on sober housing.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something you're open to revisiting if Mayor Lurie brings it back to you, or do you think the state already has rules that?
Well, you saw my veto message,
Yes.
so you know the answer to the question.
But if they bring it back to you,
You saw my veto message. So you know the answer to that question. My point is they can use HAP money. They can use all these other resources. They can use the flood of the zone of all the other resources we've had. So, and I made that clear to Daniel when we had our conversation, and I think the author, Haney, right? I think it was his, yeah.
Governor, the LAO takes a less optimistic view than you have on the budget. I'm sure you've seen their analysis, not taking into account some of the volatility you mentioned with the AI boom, that type of thing, with your deficits. Since we haven't got a chance to ask you about the budget until now, do you have a response to the LAO?
I mean, every year it's the same kabuki. I mean, just been doing this too long, Jeremy. It's the nature of it. We go through this process every year, and we always land pretty, much aligned. We show a decline below average of revenue. They're showing a big precipitous decline because they think the market's going to collapse. I don't want to overstate. I don't want to use their language. You have their language. So that's fundamentally the difference on the revenue. Theirs is deeply pessimistic. Ours is marginally. I don't think there's been a lot of evidence since they put out their first forecast that we're wrong, and there hasn't been as much evidence that I imagine they were hoping for that they're right. That said, something could happen, a black swan event on Monday, and you'll be coming back to me saying, yeah. So that's what May is about. You make these adjustments, and don't think for a second I'm static looking at the budget assuming anything. We game all this stuff out. I'll be submitting a balanced budget that structurally addresses these issues in the out years, which I've said very clearly in the State of the State, and I've said this over the years. And that's what we do every year, and LAO does a great job, and finance team does a great job. We are privy to a little more contemporary information at times. We always put out a little later. It's one advantage ultimately we have. We also understand the cost pressures in a way that the LAO is not privy to in real time. But they are absolutely right about the structural problems in the state. And they're absolutely right, the legislature and the governor's office, but working in partnership with the legislature, needs to address those issues. And I gave you the three-legged stool. It's not an exclusive list, and it's not an indictment of those programs. I've been biggest promoter back to my days as mayor of IHSS. Big promoter of DDS. I put out the master plan for reforms, and we've been investing in that space. But there's certain realities that we have to address, and solve for this year. I can get out of Dodge, say I took care of it, but that's not the way I'm going to leave this for the next governor. We have to deal with that +1 in a meaningful way, and that's my commitment, and that's what will be reflected in May's budget. Thank you all very much, and thank you for the water.